Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It has been a crazy week between finally being able to talk about my Final Fantasy 16 experience, releasing videos on some of the other news that came out from the various interviews, which I haven't even gotten around to like half of that yet. There was a new trailer at the PlayStation Showcase, and on top of that, all the 6.4 content. I got a Golbez guide out. I haven't even released any normal mode guides, and Savage will probably be, instead of the more formal guides, more direct explanations. I expect a 16 around the corner. I'll be a little more occupied with that than cranking out Savage guides for the Savage encounters, I guess. I don't know where else I was going to go with that. So yeah, it's just still going to be crazy. In fact, right now I'm sitting on 2 videos that are uploaded. They are not public because I haven't had time to make thumbnails. I haven't had time to do descriptions and tags. And on top of that, there's 2 more videos I want to record after this today, and then I realized, when do I release all this? Because Savage is Tuesday morning, and then I'm going to be putting up Savage videos, like first 3 fight clears, and then like, whatever phase clear or mechanic clear as we do it. Like, I'm going to already be killing your inboxes as it is, so I'm a little torn on what to do with some of the content that I've already prepared or that I still need to prepare, but I'm also excited because I'd rather be late on some of this stuff than not do it at all, and that means I've got a lot of things to get done, and that's exciting. I always prefer these seasons over the slower seasons where I'm struggling for ideas, and honestly, one of those seasons isn't even coming anytime soon. All the videos we haven't gotten to yet from the Retrospect series are still locked and loaded for the next several months. I mean, I have to record them, but like I evolved 3.0 to 3.x for patch retrospects, and then I also have the what's it called? I have like, do I have all the jobs out? I think I did all the jobs for Heaven's Ward. So yeah, I have the patch retrospects. I have the raid rankings that still need to be finished out. I have the old Final Fantasy stuff that needs to be finished out. I'm also planning on taking some of my full playthroughs, condensing them into maybe like a 45 minute video and posting them on the main channel here for Final Fantasies 1, 2, 3, etc. Pretty much everything that's over on the VOD channel and is still being uploaded to the VOD channel. So plenty of ideas, plenty of stuff. We'll see how it all pans out, how able I am to keep up with all of that. And I'll probably throw a few shorts in here or there as well. With Twitch's new feature, it's actually kind of nice to just post a shorter TikTok or something every now and again. Either way, there were a decent amount of questions when I checked below, at least a decent number of hashtags. There might be more. So I think we should get started. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They don't have to support. You can watch my videos as long as you enjoy them. Like, comment, whatever it is. Ask a question in the comment section. That's how I picked my comments. I appreciate that enough as well. All my content is available for free, so be sure to enjoy it. Same with super thanks. There was a super, I think I mentioned it last week, or there was a super thanks. I still don't know what video that was on. I never tracked it down. There was a super thanks that I found that I think it was on State of the Realm, actually. I think it was on the previous one. But I think I thanked that last week, so I'm just going to move on from that. And then, of course, the usual Steel Series and Advanced GG. Links below with the discount codes. You guys know the drill. Anyway, with that, let's see what questions we have. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi. Hope things are going well for you and that you're starting to see those gym gains. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the shirt doesn't really do it, but yeah, we're getting there. And don't worry, I'm doing legs. I did legs yesterday. I'm in so much pain today, you have no idea. I feel like we've gotten a lot of info. We haven't gotten a lot of info on the crafting system for 16. Was wondering if you learned anything. Pretty much what they've shown is what it is. It's not like Final Fantasy 14 with like rotations and anything fancy. Essentially, you take materials to an NPC, and that NPC will craft the items for you, assuming you have the requisite monster materials. On top of that, same with the upgrade system, you want requisite monster materials in order to actually make the upgrades for various equipment. So you may want to move around field stages, replay stages that have certain monsters in order to farm drops. We don't really know the extent of how much you're going to be doing that kind of stuff, but we know at least the baseline of it. And if there's any more advanced systems, that's still a bit up in the air. I did cover it in my recent video regarding difficulty and post-game and end-game options. That we know that in New Game Plus, if you're playing on Final Fantasy mode, which is the higher difficulty mode that only unlocks in New Game Plus, that you will you'll have access to upgrade your accessories as well, which may just be a more involved process than the originals, or may just require materials you can only get on Final Fantasy mode. I don't really know what anything past what the interview with Game Informer said, so that's what I have. And if there's anything else, then we've still yet to learn about it. Hashtag Mondays that, wait, Mondays that are happy with Mr. Okay, that one got me for a second there. Greetings and salutations. Currently, my only concern with 16, hello, by the way, I gotta say it back at the very least. Currently, my only concern with 16 is that every combat we've seen seems pretty involved. That's great for important fights, but I'm concerned it'll become laborious and tedious if every single encounter takes several minutes to resolve. Can you comment on your experiences just fighting random mobs while traversing the world? So there are 3 or 4 classifications of monsters. You have what we call fodder. These are monsters that are very easy, they aren't very tanky, and they usually come in large packs. Those are the types of packs that you will basically unload skills on to wipe everything out. Now, either on their own or amongst fodder, you will see monsters that are kind of more like elites. Those are your trolls and your buffaloes and your larger mobs. And those will feel like miniature boss encounters that are a great way to learn to improve on your combo system, how to pressure, their movesets. All sorts of knowledge comes in a lot more handy against them. I will say that my average fight time on these elite monsters ranged anywhere from 45 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on which one it was and what classification of monster, but it was generally faster than what you may see in the footage of what I posted. But that comes with me being very experienced in that style of game and not like trying to do certain things to make a recording, which seems to be a lot of the case with a lot of the footage that's been put out there and been provided, is that they're trying to show you how cool Clive can be and how cool he can look when he does his, moveset with any sort of skill or style or whatnot. And it doesn't need to be that glamorous. You can output a lot of damage without going into so much crazy effort with that. But at the same time, there are ways to improve, and you should be making efforts to improve. Then you have the actual bosses, which can range anywhere from humanoids or larger creatures, things like Fafnir, which is just kind of a generic one that you saw that I can speak of without really having any spoilers in the recent footage. And that boss has its own moveset. It has certain things that counter it. It has boss mechanics. It's really just a test of knowing that boss and trying to stay on the offense without giving up your defense. And then you, of course, have icon battles, which are on a whole different playing field, but are a lot closer to the actual boss battles. And I mean like player versus Clive versus icon, not icon versus icon. Icon versus icon, I suppose, is a 5th classification, which we've really not had too much experience with. Even the hands-on stuff, we didn't have that much experience with it. So there's a lot, but I think once you get a lot better, it'll be a lot quicker than what you see in the footage. Hashtag happy Mr. Patch weekdays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope the wellness arc is going well. Looking sharp. I'm doing all right. I'm 2 months in. I made a post. I'm 225 down to 203. I guess it depends on water weight on the given days. Like when I weighed and made that post, I was 203. But like, I don't know what my water weight was at the time. So it could have been 204, 205. I don't know. Like it's within a range around there. So it's been going good. Cut food the first month and then added in, well, then just cut food, but like changed purchasing habits and consumption habits in the first month, and then let myself ease into the fitness in the second month. So I'm getting back to feeling a lot more like old Haps. Because if you go back to my old like 2014 videos, sorry, I have to check something on my phone real quick. 2013, 2014 videos, then you'll see kind of like the shape I was in. And that was post-injury. I had a shoulder injury when I started doing a lot of YouTube stuff, which was a big reason why I stopped doing stuff in the first place. Funny enough, my shoulder injury wasn't even from working out. I just like was reaching for something behind a desk, and I just jerked it out of the socket or something. I don't know. And then it would just swell up whenever I worked out. Not happening now. It's had plenty of time to heal and it's doing fine. Anyway, took a small break from anything 14 for a while. Now I'm ready to do a deep dive patchathon as usual. If you have no other games to fall back on, what would be your ideal pastime in Eorzea during downtime between patches? Oh, I know what this answer is. Personally, I'm a deep dungeon fan and will try to chip away at those solo runs. May as well work on the older relics since Endwalker Relic is, well, we all know. Eureka. Always Eureka. It's such an easy, I can just go do this. Let me just like see, are there any Baldessian runs today? Let me just hop in on one of those. Like go in on range so I don't really need to worry about the parts, or maybe I'll go in on healer and grab a few things, because then I can make like micro goals, like, oh, let me farm these so I can have these things for healer, or maybe I want to just see if I get lucky on some of the NMs, or just do some lock boxes, or maybe I want to make another relic that I never finished from back in the day. Like it's so easy to hop back into, make a little bit of money, spend a little bit of time, do a little bit of socializing. It'll always be Eureka. I think it will always be my fallback content. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey Haps, hi. Hope Savage will treat you well. So do I. I have a question about tomes of causality and comedy. What are they typically used for? I'm a very casual player, and I'm wondering if I have any good use. So, Tome Zones of comedy are what we refer to as weekly capped tomes. You use that to buy gear that just simply costs tomes, but because you have a limited capacity at which you can gain them, you can only make so much progress per week. That gear can be upgraded with Savage level items. You can take an item from Savage and then upgrade those pieces, but you can also wait until the 24-man raids come along, and then you can get them from the 24-man raids once a week, or even the hunt if you're planning on doing that regularly. So that's whenever anything is capped 450 out of 450, or as it will be towards the end of this expansion, 900 out of 900, that's a tell that it's used for what is essentially something that is closer to the highest item level available. When it's upgraded, it is the highest item level available in terms of armor. Causality is what we call our uncapped current expansion tomestones. These are usually used to buy old gear sets as well as crafting materials. The most notable thing that you would spend them on right now are the crafting materials for new potions, new food, new armor, and sell them. If you're not going to craft them yourselves at the very least, it's better to spend it on that and, you know, make a little bit of money than to sit on 2,000 all the time. You can also use it to buy old gear, specifically gear from 6.2 from the vendor, and desynthesize that if you need desynthesis levels. So there's a couple of different functions for them. But that's actually true regardless of whether it's causality, comedy, or any of the new ones we get. The bottom two of the list of 3 at the top of the currency tab, those are always just used for current expansion stuff, somewhat close to what I've just listed. So those names will change. They'll be called something completely different when we get to 7.x, and they'll just have a similar function. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Lollyho. Hello. I was wondering if you've seen the video with the no healer clear group. I have seen the no healer clear top. I can only say no clearer heal. Don't get me wrong, I highly doubt there will be multiple groups clearing without a healer. There won't be. The fact that it's even possible is wild. What are your thoughts on the healer landscape? I mean, they had to craft a very specific team to do that. Like you've said, that's not something that groups will just decide, oh, we just won't bring a healer and forego it. They had to come up with a very specific strategy to go against the healer LB3. They needed their cooldowns and an exact, like, it was down to an exact science with pretty much no flexibility. And even then, they seemed worried about damage variance in terms of incoming damage at various points because they couldn't actually cover all of the healing that was required to get people to full. So it's a very impressive use of mitigation more than anything else. And I think that's the only thing it actually speaks on. I don't think it speaks on healing and healing as a requirement. I think it speaks on the volume of mitigation tools available for the entirety of the job cast. You know, just everyone has something. It feels like every role, every job, almost everything has something that can make healing less required. And I think that if they're going to take anything away from that, because it's ultimate level content, so it's like you kind of have to look at it and see how it was even possible and not just go, oh, you know, not very many people could do that kind of situation. I think you need to take away that the number of mitigation tools and things that are mitigation adjacent that have other functions like healing over time and direct healing maybe need to be dialed back a little bit. Things like Divine Veil having the heal on top of it. Things like Shake It Off having the heal and then the heal over time on top of the shield. And it's just like, you got to look at those things more than anything else. Hashtag Monk Days with Mr. Happy. If only I were so lucky. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope you're all prepped for the race. Yeah, I made Prague stew today. It's the exquisite beef stew from the Final Fantasy XIV cookbook. I also made some soy-glazed pork meatloaf, some fries, some vegetables. I have a whole bunch of vegetables in there, some rice. Today's a medium carb day. I'm doing carb cycling, by the way. That's one of my fitness things right now is low day, medium day, high day for carbs. Today's a medium day. Tomorrow's a high day because I'm going to have something high in carbs to knock myself out, so I can wake up bright and early in order to farm dungeons for 2 hours before the raid tier unlocks. Ugh. Anyway, as someone who's doing their first world race for this Savage tier, doing 16 on, 8 off for the first week, do you have any advice or tips to maintain focus? Do not chug back energy drinks and sit down the whole time. For the love of God, if you are someone, and I'm saying this to everyone who may be this way, if you are someone who just sits for the whole 16 hours and doesn't like think about the food they're going to eat or just orders something in and you're drinking energy drinks and you're not, you should have water, even if it's bottled water, so it's easy. Like, so you just reach over and just something simple. You want foods that have a decent spread of nutrition. You don't want to like cut carbs entirely for something like this because carbs are energy, but you also don't want to be huffing down like a pound of spaghetti or something like that, you know? So it's like, oh, I have this chicken Alfredo and it's just like this massive tin of chicken Alfredo. And you're like, it's got chicken in it. No, I mean, it's honestly about healthier habits. Those are the people who always strive to be the best in prog. It's healthier habits with an unhealthy sleep schedule. Because like the people who really push for those first, they'll go ahead and do the 20 to 21 hour day and then cut their sleep by several hours to get back in faster if they think it'll get them the world first. Now, if you're just trying to complete it in week 1 with the 16 on, 8 off, then it doesn't matter as much. You might have to get used to moving around the sleep schedule. You might want to actually adjust your sleep schedule in advance. I don't do that because I'm a freak of nature and I can just decide to wake up or go to sleep at any time. So, yeah, I mean, those are just a few different things. Maintaining focus is honestly just, if you aren't focused, say, give me 5 minutes. I'm having trouble staying focused. Go splash water on your face, get up, walk around, do something. But don't just stare at the PC and hope it'll get better, because it won't. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Howdy, Happy. Hi, love the show. Thanks. Just curious, what melee DPS, Sam Reaper, or Dragoon do you think would best fit in the composition of Summoner, Red Mage, Dancer, Paladin, White Mage, Scholar? So, Samurai has the massive benefit of being a super consistent, week 1 especially, DPS. It is very low damage variance because almost all of its hardest hitting skills are guaranteed direct crits, which makes it a great thing to have a lot of buffs for. So having Embolden, having the Summoner 30-second buff, the Carbuncle thing, having Dance Partner are all great. Scholar loses a lot of value with Samurai. I also noticed there's only 6 jobs listed here, so I don't know what your other tank is, but it wouldn't matter in terms of raid DPS. It would matter if you were asking me about them. But having Paladin, White Mage, I mean, the Paladins, whatever, it's like the tanks aren't offering damage to the Samurai. White Mage is selfish, and Scholar crit the chain stratagem is not very useful at all for Samurai. So I think your DPS lean Samurai, but your healers lean into Reaper or Dragoon. Probably more so into Dragoon if I had to pick one. Reaper, it's in a similar boat, but because it adds a little bit more raid DPS and doesn't really have any sort of direct crit shenanigans, it fits a little bit more cleanly across the entire board, just doesn't make use of certain buffs as well. And Dragoon's largely the same, a lot of raid buffs to filter into everything else, benefits quite well from the Scholar as well with the chain stratagem, same with Reaper. I would probably, if you're going to go White Mage Scholar and not Astro, like if you had an Astro instead of a White Mage, I would say the Samurai for certain. If not, honestly, I don't know between Reaper and Dragoon. It's one of the two. But if you're maiming and you can play both, then, I mean, that's, all the more power to you. But I think I would personally go Dragoon. But not for any particular reason. I just think it would be better. I gotta speed up some of these answers. I've had some pretty long answers here. Hashtag the Mister. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope all is well with you and yours. Thanks. And thank you for the coverage you've done regarding 16 so far. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been to keep that tight-lipped. Hey, listen, it's difficult, but it's also easy because I ain't trying to get blacklisted by Square. Speaking of 16, I have one small question, if I may. During your time with the game, did you notice if there are any options to turn off certain elements of the UI, specifically the list of objectives and the quest markers? I did look at the options, but I then became so engrossed in the game that I don't remember any of them. So I won't say yes or no, because I quite frankly was just so engrossed in playing the game that I have forgotten that information. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Haps. Hi. Hope your patch week went well. Yeah, I'd say so. It's still going well, as a matter of fact. My FC members and I were debating how important it was for a person leveling a tank to upgrade their gear beyond the Tome Zones set, especially for the X7 and X9 dungeon. While I understand ultimately your group DPS will make a far greater impact on survivability, I've always made an effort to do some moderate upgrading. Otherwise, we're saying the difference was negligible. I'm wondering if you had any insight as how much gearing helps. It definitely helps. But here's the thing, I find that it helps more noticeably in less experienced tanks. Very experienced tanks don't deal with that much incoming damage because they are way better at spacing out cooldowns or even just supporting themselves. That will, however, come down to A, how long the pulls take, and B, how well your healer actually supports the group. So I'd say that if you are confident you are running with people you trust, then not upgrading is a completely reasonable thing. But as soon as the variable of pugs comes into play, then it's irresponsible to try to stay in Tomestone gear for the entire 10 levels. There is, of course, the option of trying to do roulettes and skip some level ranges if you get lucky, especially if you're not using the full pre-made leveling roulette like the one that makes it so it can only be within the last 8 levels or whatever, the last 7 levels. But that being said, no, it's 8 levels. Whatever, 7 levels, 8 levels. It ends up being almost the same at depending on your level. Either way, yeah, I'd say it's not negligible. It's definitely noticeable, but only matters if you're pugging. And so if you're pugging, yeah, I would always advise try to grab upgrades. Like, you don't have to like go out of your way to grab them, but just try to grab something. Hashtag Lunas con el Señor Feliz. I know that was terrible, but I tried. Hello there, Mr. Happy. Hi. Got 2 questions. Is when it comes to Savage Raids, you mentioned you will use the crafted gear. Will you eventually change the tome gear? So this depends on a piece-to-piece basis. So tome gear, we only have 900 tomes available for week 1 of raiding. You know, we had 1 week of 450, and we'll get another 450 this coming Tuesday. So there's a budget, essentially. Now, item level is very important, not just because of the main stat increase, which is usually why it ends up winning out outside of extreme cases, especially on accessories. You tend to see that if you're going to see it anywhere. But it's also the health. Health is something you cannot undervalue at all during week 1. Honestly, sometimes I've considered just giving healers like a drop or something just to get them a little more health. Because you never know when they're going to randomly throw a physical, like raid-wide AoE, and it's the worst. So, yeah, I'm going to be upgrading. It's just, you can't have that for everything. So I'm going to end up grabbing the boots and a bracelet, I think it was, once I have my 900 tomes. And then I'll just throw the extra 2 in there, and it should be fine. Most I've done Shadowbringers. I kind of want to dip my feet into the hard side of content since I'm starting. Should I seek a static or should I PF? I always say that as tough as it is, PFing before... Oh, hi, Ivy. PFing before you get a static is usually how you prove to statics that you are... prove at least a minimum skill level to them. You know, because there's usually some sort of record of you doing things and your clears and your rate of success and your individual performance. That stuff just makes it out into the world whenever you're doing PF. So I always say start there, unless you have a friend group that wants to give it a shot, in which case that's always the best way to get in. Even if the friend group doesn't like stick together or finish it, it's usually a good idea to hop in like that if possible. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning after evenington, Mr. Happy. I actually had to slow down to make sure I was reading that correctly. Today, last Monday for you, people started discussing how clear rates for top were impacted by Ether Clear Squad, essentially calling out I saw this on social. This is so stupid. My real question is regarding if you feel like there's an actual difference between C for 1s and C for 8s, if there's any reason to feel like one clear counts more than the other. No, people are just stupid. People are stupid. Do you know how many clear for 1s there have been for every single ultimate? And top, one of the worst things to have to PF, one of the ultimates that is the most dreadful to do in the party finder, and there is a group of people that want to do the fight, that have someone who can get through the fight, who's at least in some capacity capable of getting through the fight, and a fight where everyone has to do the right thing to get through or you instantly die. It's the dumbest thing imaginable to look at that situation and go, that doesn't count. But the people saying that probably can't even fucking find a group or get it clear. They're like, if I had free time, I could do it. You know, I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of time. You know, I'm sure if I could get in the clear for 1, I'd probably clear it in no time at all. Ugh. Yeah, and on top of that, it's, as far as you know, and I'm going to take your word for it, Ether Squad would help people clear who had seen up to P5 and 6. So, or at least to run Omega. Okay, so the final mechanic of Phase 5. Yeah, it's people who are like at the finish line. They're like 5/8 or they're like 5/6 through the marathon. And there's somebody there cheering them on and like helping them through so they finish the race kind of situation. People are so stupid to complain about that. Hey, if you're someone who is on Ether Clear Squad or you're someone who cleared with them, you're awesome. All right? You're awesome. And I'm telling you that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning, Happy, from a fellow Jersey boy. Hi, and I'm so sorry that you share my fate. 2 questions, 1 story, 1 crossover. 6.4, further establishing Y'shtola wanting to return to the first. I mean, that hasn't needed further reestablishing. That's pretty much been her entire personality for like 3 years now. How bad would the blowback of the fan base be if they made that coupling happen? Who gives a shit? they're two not real characters. And everyone I know has been like, yo, Runar, we got you back, bro. We're going to make sure that we make this happen. All right. Next, what would you like as a reward from the 16 crossover? Oh, it's got to be Torgal. I mean, it's got to be a Torgal mountain minion. There's nothing else to want. Like, maybe there's a cool weapon in the game that, like, I want. No, it's got to be Torgal. Come on. Hashtag Happy Mr. with Mondays. Hi there, Happy. Hi. Hope you're having a great day and you're all prepped for banging your head against Savage. Honestly, dude, I hope it just falls over dead. Like, I want the fights to be fun, but I want to just roll over them in like 2 days. I don't think that's going to happen. I think realistically 3-4 days for the majority of groups, but I think that's still going to be the case. My question is actually related to comments OCP made a year or so ago about Red Mage. OCP commented they debated removing Raze from Red Mage. Back then I was completely casual, and as a Red Mage man, I thought he was out of his mind. But after clearing the current Ray tier and a few ultimates, I understand a little bit better. Yeah, the existence of Raze and Red Mage and Summoner limits their willingness to change potencies around because of their utility. What's your solution to this potential problem be? I've said for a long time, I think Final Fantasy XIV has an issue with too many Razes being available. I think that us toning that back a little bit would be perfectly reasonable. The only place it kind of sucks to tone back is honestly 24-mans. Like, that's the only place where suddenly if they changed it, that I'd wish Red Mage had it again. And maybe there's a way they can change it and make it work so that in 24-mans you can do more raises as a Red Mage or as a summoner, or like whatever, you know. But otherwise, I'm someone who believes that, yeah, we probably have too much raising potential. And I do think it will always limit the jobs in terms of their maximum capacity. But I don't know, Shadowbringers has shown that you can get to a pretty reasonable point between the casters if you just fiddle around with the numbers enough. So I don't know, maybe they can get back to that, but then another expansion will come out and ruin it again. So good luck. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hiya, Happy Mister. Hi. Is it ever mentioned in the lore where the Scions actually live? They don't. And I don't mean they don't mention it. I mean, they don't live any one place. Like, they convene in places, but they're all pretty nomadic. Like, we know that Alphino and Alice are likely just sleeping with, you know, the people in Tertium. Like, they're just like on the floors, or maybe they're back in the beds of the Ilsabard contingent. Like, that's just the region they're hanging out in. Any of them hanging out in Sharlayan probably have taken up quarters there. You know, so it just depends on where they are. They just make do because they're all nomadic. So yeah, they don't have like a, I'm going to go home for the day, see you guys later. No, they just take whatever in-room bed they can find or make a camp or whatever they have to do. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Hope 6.4 is treating you well. It is. And same to you. My question today is, do you know if there's ever been any official reason given as to why 14 is weirdly represented in the FF gacha games as it is? As someone who played Opera Omnia, I'm sure you know that their last new 14 character was Lys. Y'shtola got a burst weapon, and I think they've given everyone LD weapons at this point, but that's really as far as banners go. I know Opera Omnia has a huge roster to cover. It seems weird they haven't touched Shadowbringers or Endwalker. Honestly, I don't really know what to think about Opera Omnia, because Opera Omnia has had issues where they want people to spend. Here's the thing, making new characters takes more time for them, even though they use kind of like the same base model for most things, than it does to create new weapons and new effects for existing assets. And as a game that's largely trying to make money, they know that making, like, yeah, a new character is a good selling point, so you can add weapons for them, and that's always fun and exciting, and people are likely to spend money. But it's also way faster to add a new weapon, call it something fancy, add a new animation, and, not have to worry about also creating a whole new character across the entire time. So it's probably more profitable, but also with the size of the roster they have, and they need to keep introducing weapons that power creep into the game in order to incentivize people to spend. At this point, it's just volume, in my opinion. There are other games that have like really weird lack of representation, and there's characters that you'd expect to have been there a million times over, but that's about it. I don't think they really care too much to like try to force 14 down people's throats when there's a massive roster of classic Final Fantasy characters, probably ones that have more general connection to the masses of Final Fantasy and like hardcore Final Fantasy fans than the main characters like the Scions do. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Nope, we have our first. Oh, no, you know what? I can see down below. I added the hello afterwards just to make you rant. But listen, I could see it. My eyes found the hello at the bottom. So since they removed Selene from Scholar and added Carbuncle, you got me thinking, what if they added reskins for all the skills on every job? Maybe adding... Yeah, I got a question like this not that long ago. That is way easier said than done, because that's a lot of work. Like, that's something that they would do for one skill at most per job, like every like patch or other patch if they were going to do it at all. So yeah, there's that's not gonna happen. Or they do it all for one job at once, and then like over like a course of 10 years, they would gradually introduce, you know, more and more of them. I mean, people have suggested this before. I think the most clear example that people list is Warlock from World of Warcraft, the Fellfire animations versus the regular animations for Warlock. But that being said, it's a whole nother ball game when it comes to going through all that stuff and adding in all the effects and whatnot. Because then you can't do it for one, because then everyone wants it. And you can't do it for... and then if you do it for that one, like it's one of those you're never going to win as like a company. You need to commit wholly to that, or you need to wholly commit to like job balancing and reworks in terms of like asset use for designing stuff like that. So it's not a no. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they did it at some point, but it would be something I would go so far away from expecting them to do. All right, I had to skip a question because it was about the homogenization of jobs, and it was this whole explanation about like McDonald's and how it's called the McDonaldization. And honestly, like by the end of it, I had lost my attention span on the question. So I'm sorry to that person who wrote out that very, very long thing about McDonaldization, but I couldn't, like, I was just, by the time I was done reading it, I didn't want to answer it anymore. That's the honest truth. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, friendly greeting. I hope you're having a happy day. End friendly greeting. Query. So a lot of people have asked about how you've liked Savage and Extreme, but what normal modes would you say have been your favorite? And what normal modes have you felt were the best/worst preparation for the Extreme or Savage version? Any fights you would prefer stuck a little more, stuck to a little bit more of some normal mode presentation? Myself, for example, I would have preferred starting in the cage in P5S, even if for just an aesthetic level. Also, for door bosses... Okay, well, you don't actually end the query. I guess the query doesn't end until after I answer it. You can only include the door boss part of it, no comparing 04 end and Neo X stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. There's actually a lot of good normal modes. There's also a lot of really bad normal modes, in my opinion. Our most recent tier... So we haven't even gotten the Savage tier for this one, and I really like the normal modes all the same. They tickle the brain. Pandemonium's normal modes have generally tickled the brain well, and it's been up to the Savages to see if those brain tickles are any good. Whereas, like, Omega, for example, a lot of the time, I never really felt like I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to do the Savage version. There's a lot of normals that let me down there. Like, Halicarnassus was nice, but then the Savage is great, but then there was the lack of the desert phase, and that was something that was disappointing. But then you have fights like... I actually think Fatebreaker is probably the best example of a normal going to a Savage, and that would be E11, for those of you who don't know what Fatebreaker is. Yeah, that's Dad Jeet, Dan Jeet, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, I think that's one of the best, because honestly, the mechanics are almost no different in Savage. It's just a matter of the way they're put together with other things, what they add on top of them, and making sure you understand how the animations work and what they look like. So I actually think that is one of the better examples of a normal mode going to a Savage. But I actually think the track record of normal modes across all the expansions is better than I'm willing to give it credit for, because I really don't do them after week 1. And a lot of them can be fun to grab in a roulette, go back to, and finish, except for the really old ones, which die in almost no time at all. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. Longtime viewer, first-time caller. Welcome in. What's your favorite either changed or removed trial in 14? Have they removed a trial? They've changed. I guess technically, like, if you're referring to going back to like the 2.0 changes where they took Praetorium and split it in 2, which actually gave us a new trial. But a removed trial? I don't think they've ever removed a trial outright. I mean, like you said, they've reworked it. I mean, Cape Westwind solo instance is fantastic. Like, I loved going back and experiencing that. And I think that's a great thing to make new players do. So I think I'll throw that in the category and say Cape Westwind, I think, is up there for my favorite changed oh, you know what? That is a removed trial because they took the trial away to give us the solo answer. So yeah, I mean, that's the answer. That's like categorically what you're asking is Cape West doing good? And the answer is yes. Hashtag Happy Mondays with Mr. Happy. You can lightning round. Okay, the hey is on the second line. All right, well, I'm not lightning rounded, but I'll answer quickly. Hey, happy good morning, afternoon, evening from Manila. Just have two short questions. First, wanted to ask if you can help inform those. Aloha! Ow! Dude, what the fuck? Don't paw my leg like that. I'm in the middle of working. If you can help inform those players who couldn't play Final Fantasy IV, determine the similarities of Golbez and Zermus in Final Fantasy IV to the ones in Final Fantasy XIV. They are literally just names that are almost nothing alike their original counterparts. Second is if you have any tips or some words for those who are starting a static in 6.4 but can only prog during the weekends, make the best of your time. Try not to take too many breaks. Try to make sure if somebody uses the restroom that everybody uses the restroom, so you don't get the thing where they get chain restroom breaks, one after the other, after the other, after the other, and then all of a sudden you're just gone for 30 minutes because someone had to poo, then someone had to pee, then someone went to walk their dog, then somebody grabbed water, and somebody went to heat up food, and then it's the worst thing ever. Make use of the limited time that you have and try not to take anything longer than a 10-minute break at one point after an instance lockout, depending on how long you actually plan on going for said day. New look and new setup look promising and awesome, by the way. Regards to Aloha. Thank you. Apparently, he wanted to send regards back through my skin. Hashtag Mr. Happy, whatever day it is. Cool. What's up, Haps? Hey, really enjoyed the 6.4 streams this week. Thank you. As for my actual question, I'm not sure if you have any experience on the answer, but I sure hope so. I just started picking up tank. I can tell you this isn't going to be good. At the end of 6.3 and after being a healer main since I started Stormblood, I only cleared one tier of Savage being Asphodelos on Sage. Now I'm switching to tank full-time for 6.4, but doing the new extreme, I realized I have trouble during the fight keeping my rotation in mind while thinking about tank swaps and tank busters. Do you have any tank tips? I don't, because honestly, this is just like you have to play tank more to get used to it. Like if you're thinking about it, that means you're already thinking about making improvements to it, which is honestly all you can really do. Because I almost never play tank, and when I do, I am just doing it to get through content that I just want a tank for it. Like I need to be able to trust the tank. So no, yeah, I don't have any particular tips, unfortunately, because I don't really play tank. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Top of the morning to you, Happy. Top of the morning to you, too. I had a business question for you. I was wondering if you'd explain what the difference is between a producer and a director. Well, I've been neither, so I feel like this is one of those situations where I Google it and give you an answer. So let me see if I can come up with my bullshit answer. A director determines aspects about the game that will immediately affect the end product. They help influence everything from the story to the gameplay to little connections between all of the different aspects of the game. They will approve and work towards making certain things, but they will also work directly with the producer. And the producer is responsible not just for certain game functions and making sure that the products get done, but I have no idea. So I'm going to stop trying to bullshit there. No, that's literally Google it, because you're better off than just asking someone who sits behind a computer desk and answers Q&As every week and talks about Final Fantasy XIV and does not run his own business or make his own games. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Happy Sir. Hi. Multi-layer question. Well, if it's like cake, I do like layers. If it's like an onion, I still like layers. Question, if Final Fantasy XIV implemented a time travel expansion, well, about that. Would you rather, one, go to the zones in the past or the future? Honestly, just go to Allagan Empire. Just keep milking the Allagans. Just who cares? How about this? Yeah, just go back to the Allagans. Just whatever. Which zones would you love to see most in a different time, and why? I'm indifferent. I don't have an answer for that. I just want to see the characters, not the zones. Is there an NPC you'd love to interact with in this time travel MSQ? Oh, I'd love to interact with what's his name? Amon. I'd like to talk to actual Amon and be like, hello. I know who you are. Yeah, no, that's it. I wouldn't, honestly, I don't want a dedicated time travel, like anything. Like we've had a lot of time travel. I'm good. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. How's it going, Haps? It's going all right. Hope the same for you. What are the best potato chips? There's one answer, and the answer, I'm sure you can all respect, is all dressed. All right, I'm going to take the advice of that other question and lightning around the rest of them just so I can wrap this. Like I said, I got other stuff to work on today as well. There's a question that asks me, and I don't really understand the correlation, if I think because of the increase in the size of the AoEs, everything being basically 30 or 50 alms at this point, that means pet jobs will be gone by next expansion. There's no causation or correlation there in any capacity, and pretty much pets are gone already anyway. The only pet you actually control anything on in terms of like directly commanding the pet to do something, as far as I know, is Scholar. So there already basically aren't there. And that's it. So that's the last step. So again, no causation correlation between those two things, but on a separate note, yeah, I mean, they've pretty much almost done that already. Let's see. A question about NA community and EU community. Seems to be a big difference between the two. Yeah, EU is smart enough to use macros, and NA stands around a fucking marker all day. NA seems to be more friendly. Yeah, EU, I hear a lot of like toxic stuff that happens over there, but it's weird because NA is considered like a melting pot of why do I want to say of races, of cultures, of everything. Like that's what it's called. EU has a bunch of different countries with a bunch of different speaking languages, and from what I understand, they all hate each other. So I guess that's the reason. I don't know, because I've never actually played on EU, but I just listen to what my EU brethren tell me, and that's kind of the impression that I get. My second question is, as an EU player, all the YouTube channels about 14 seem to be based in NA. There's some that either translate stuff or post their own stuff. I know that for a fact. You know anyone based in the UK can see a more EU look on content? I mean, there are plenty of people who are in the UK, but I mean, I don't actually watch a lot of YouTube for 14 stuff. I surround myself with Final Fantasy all day. When I'm on my own and I can like choose what I want to watch, the last thing I'm thinking of is watching Final Fantasy 14. Like it is, like, I'd rather watch like just old like clips from House or or watch the coyote get bit by ants for like the 10 billionth time or something like that, or watch like highlight clips of the Blacklist from like the old seasons. Like I have no interest in watching Final Fantasy 14, so I'm actually an awful person to answer this question. Then we have another one. What do you think of making videos to point out the references? So I've considered that, and there's so many that I'm gonna miss them. They're insurmountable. The amount of even the tiniest references, even dialogue choices and stuff. So that's why it's just an insurmountable thing that just kind of exhausts me to think about. And I think there's a few left, I think, still to grab. I have a follow-up. Oh, is this somebody who asked? Oh, no, it's not. They have a follow-up from last week. Okay. If you have computing power and internet, is it possible to stream the same stream to two platforms? Yeah, plenty of people do that. You don't even need a lot. It's really your bandwidth that needs to be able to support it, because your PC is already outputting, so like it doesn't add that much stress. But still, generally, a 2 PC setup is considered more stable for something like that. But yeah, plenty of people do that. So yeah, that's absolutely a normal thing. Somebody's saying good thumbnail. I don't know why I made a thumbnail for last week's. I was making other thumbnails and just said, whatever, I'm making one. I just want it to look good amongst all the other uploads that I'm doing. Then we had one here, hello as well. With the current progression of your own lifestyle, what are some important food habits to keep in mind for someone who wants to begin? Important food habit is don't try to do too much at once. Just think about the things that you enjoy and think about how to enjoy them in a more reasonable way. Like if you like soda, like, yeah, would I usually recommend cutting out soda? Yeah, but I mean, you just need to consume not 6 of them in a day. Same with like a Monster or whatever. You know, if you drink coffee, you know, if you're like me, I got rid of cream and sugar over 10 years ago at this point. If you go to the grocery store and you walk past the bakery and you see that pile of tiramisu, you got to learn to say no. I mean, it's honestly just saying no to overindulging in habits. That's like the only thing when it comes to food shopping and food consumption. If you can cook for yourself, it's usually a lot better too. Because when you want to order out, like, temptation wins every time. You're like, oh, let me get I'll get Chinese, but I'll just get this. Oh, but you know what? They have crab meat wontons, and I do love the crab meat wontons. Oh, they have the boneless barbecue pork ribs. I like those. It's one thing after the next, then it's just a slide from there. So that was really the biggest thing, I would say. Then we have one with a New York accent. Hey, Mr. Abby, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. Hey, listen, I'm glad to see it. I'm in almost every guild vendor. You can buy items that recover you from poison, blindness, or sleep. Yeah, they're so useless. They hinder you a lot. These ailments don't hinder you much. No, it's just they get asuned. Anytime you have something, no, it's very important. Especially if you're doing like deep dungeons, you definitely want to consider having this stuff on you in some capacity. But yeah, almost otherwise, no. A lot of the times, the most debilitating times to get those debuffs, it can't even be removed. So yeah, they're there, and sometimes it's nice to have them for very particular situations, but most of the time, yeah. Do you think the hints they've dropped in anything in 6.4 or things that seem like hints could be hints towards 7.0, or do you think it's going further? 7.0. They're not going to think that far in advance with such direct tips. Those are hints for 7.0. And I think that's actually the last one. Yeah, that's the last question. Sorry for the one that I skipped, the super long one with the McDonald's reference that I understood it, but by the time I was done reading it, I just didn't have the energy to actually answer it. So I'm sorry to that person. That's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Got a lot of uploads coming again this week, a lot of Savage stuff, just general VODs and highlights and clips this week. Plus, actually, after I finish the tier, I plan on doing a bunch of stuff as well. Even though I don't plan on really doing the like hardcore, super like heavily edited Savage guides this time around because I just got too many other things going on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to ask your questions in the comments section of the video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And I will see you all in next week's, where hopefully I have completed the final Savage tier of this expansion. Until then, y'all have a good one.